Ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
Listen to Pavarotti.
Can I be your superhero?
Hello, welcome to The Revealing. I am your host, Pavarotti, and I'm here to discuss the IDAHO4 case. And you know, the video I put out yesterday, I knew it was going to cause a little bit of stir, and I expected that, but I mean, I have to be very, very clear. I mean, I'm actually quite enthused with what I've discovered there, and I believe it makes so much more sense for a lot more aspects of this case because it gets us to an area that we were never at before. And that is making the connection between BK and the people that actually did the crime. Because without that connection, then you've got a knife sheath at the crime scene that has Bryan Kohberger's supposed DNA on it, even though we've all tore that apart. But to the general public, it has his DNA on it. Even in a case of secondary transfer, like in the case of the guy that the ambulance picked him up. I forgot his name. But the ambulance picked him up and they treated him, and then they went to a crime scene and they touched something at the crime scene, transferred that guy's DNA, was going to put him away for life. But then they realized what had happened and they could go to the exact moment in time where they actually touched the other guy and transferred his DNA. Well, see, without something like that, in this case, there's no way to say, okay, it's secondary transfer, but we have no idea how it's secondary transfer because nobody ever can prove that he's anywhere near the knife sheath. And nobody's going to buy the gas pump. You know, he touched the gas pump, somebody else touched the gas pump and touched the knife sheath. And in my humble opinion, I mean, even though we've fought and fought and fought for it. So I think I'm a little bit more enthused to actually put Bryan Kohberger, knowing the people that did the crime, which would give the ample opportunity for them to set that kid up. Because let's face it, he is a kid that people like that would absolutely take advantage of. And when I had put this together for so long of Kohberger and the trip that he made the next morning to Moscow, it all lined up perfect with his ATM withdrawal. I mean, it was cut and dry for me because it was all right there. I mean, it's amazing how the odds line up on things in this case. And when you get all the evidence, you go, oh my God, how's that even possible? But until these new court docs were released, and by the way, they released, you know, thousands of them in this last bunch, we haven't been able to get to all of them. So when we finally get to them and we find out that the ATM withdrawal didn't happen at 9:12, it happened at 10:49. It didn't happen in Moscow. It happened in Pullman. Then we get the reports on the tower pings that actually shows what took place. I mean, Bryan Kohberger literally went to Moscow and circled the King Road neighborhood at 9 a.m. that morning with his phone on. Now, if you're telling me, this is where I've just kind of, my mind just goes, y'all have to open your mind a little bit, because they're saying Kohberger pre-planned this thing so well that he turned his phone off. He planned out these routes, went these weird ways with his phone off so he couldn't be detected, put it in airplane mode, turned his Wi-Fi off, went through all this. But then a couple hours later, all those preparations went out the window. And he took his phone, didn't put it in airplane mode, didn't turn it off at all. In fact, must have been doing stuff on it, or apps were doing stuff on it. And he drove straight over there, right around the crime scene with his phone on. I mean, what sense does that make in any realm of possibilities? None. So we've got to be able to look outside of the box. And when I look outside of the box, because I've already gone down this route, and I went down this route for a long time, this is what I believe for a long time, that once you put Kohberger with the criminals, for whatever reason, then you have an actual reason for Kohberger not to be a participant in this crime, but to be set up by real criminals that knew what they were doing. Now you can bring in everything into play. Why was there 2 white cars? Why was there another Elantra? Why is that Elantra that was wrecked in Eugene, Oregon? Why does it just happen to look exactly like Bryan Kohberger's car? Well, you start to see how this thing could have been set up to point to Bryan Kohberger. You got his sheath laying on the bed. You got his car that looks exactly like his circling the neighborhood. You find it 8 hours away, right? You start to really put this stuff together. But if you just put your head in the sand now that we have this new information, because the new information proves Brian Kohlberger left his apartment at 9 a.m., drove straight down 270 and right around that King Road neighborhood. Absolutely proves it through the phone pings. You're going to have to explain that. Everybody, well, you don't say he's starting to use drugs again, Pop. Oh, really? Okay, well, then if not, what you're going to learn in this video is, in my humble opinion, based on everything I've looked at, undeniable connections to Mowich. Okay? So if you don't want to believe he's back into the D-rugs, well, then I'm sorry, you're going to have to believe that if it's just autism, well, now you got just autism over there hanging out with people that likely committed a quadruple unaliving. How are you going to explain that? He just wants to hang out with them? So it seems more logical to me that if he was dipping back in with these people, that would be a reason for him to be with these people and them to set him up. So I understand the information that I'm bringing is kind of shocking, and you got to get your mind around it. By no means am I saying Brian Kohlberger is guilty of this crime. There's too many other things out there that point against it. There's no way that Ann Taylor is going to continue to go and visit Brian Kohlberger on a weekly basis, set up an elaborate plan to try to get him hitched, and he's one of the unalivers. Give me a break. But you got to keep an open mind when you look at the information, or else you're going to be left in the dust. Because when new information comes out, if you don't take it and apply it to the case, then what are we really doing here? Just creating fairy tales? Hold on to your hats, folks, because this one's getting real. Okay, so we know that Brian's last seen as he came back that morning at 5:30 and 18 seconds on the last camera at Cougar Way and Stadium Way before he got to his apartment. And then once he arrived at his apartment, you can see at 6:13 is when he began calling his mom and dad. So 6:13, you can see down here the actual results of that. He made a call at 6:13 to either his mom or his dad. I don't remember which one's 9755 and 7949. One's his mom, one's his dad. But he makes an outgoing call, probably a missed call because there's no seconds on that one at 6:13. Then he makes the outgoing call and I guess probably leaves a message because there's 2 seconds on that one at 6:15. And then at 6:17, he calls them again and they answer and they talk for, it looks like, either 36 or 56 minutes. And then he must immediately send them a message at 8:01 and then call them back at 8:03 in 10 seconds. And then they answer and they talk for another 54 minutes. I guess that one might be 36 minutes up here. It's hard to see them. This one looks like 54 minutes. So if he calls them at 8:03 and talks for 54 minutes, I mean, that's literally about, I mean, it's just a couple of minutes shy of 9 o'clock when he gets off the phone with them that last time. So, I mean, he must literally get off the phone with them and either be in his car when he gets off the phone or be jumping in his car, because he leaves out and he hits this towering sector, which means he's got to be, almost a 270 just to hit this towering sector versus the one that he was on that covers his apartment at 9 o'clock and 54 seconds. And then, as I mentioned, he connects to the tower facing south at 9:03. So 3 minutes later, he's right here. Now, he's next going to connect to the tower over in Moscow that covers the area around the Sunset Mart. And that's at 9:12 and 59 seconds. So what I've done is, that he's right here at 9:03:22. So he would have to take the fastest possible route to be able to get to that tower coverage and the Sunset Mart at 9:12 and 59 seconds. So it's easy to be able to see how this works in real time and be able to match it up. I mean, we're talking about, from right here, 13 minutes, from this tower in sector, 9 minutes. So he connects to this tower right here that covers this area at 9:12 and 14 seconds. And then less than a minute later, he passes the sunset mark at 9:12 and 59 seconds. So I mean, that's definitely his car because it's connecting to this tower and sector. And within, I mean, you would expect to see his car if you had a camera right here. And sure enough, he comes driving past it. But to make sure that everything jives, so you know the way that he took over there, it's kind of easy to do because you have a time frame where he's right here and then right here connecting to these towers. So there's only a certain amount of time to get from here to here. So you got to take a route that would allow you to get there. And when you put it on the map, if you're right here and you're going to right here, it's exactly 9.1 miles on the fastest route. So, I mean, if he sped pretty good, then he could get there in, between 9 minutes and 13 minutes, which actually puts him there exactly at that time. So you can be fairly confident that he took 270 to get there. And this is what I think is interesting because in the interview, Cy Ray keeps saying the next morning Koberger did the exact same thing he did the night before, except that would be impossible based on what Cy Ray is saying, because Cy Ray says that he comes up here way north of the airport and then comes back down around and around this way. And if he tries to say he did the same thing the next morning, that's impossible because he knows, and Cy Ray knows that he took 270 because he put it in his report as a way to be able to prove that that didn't happen that night, because they were trying to say that's the route Koberger took and he was caught on camera at Floyd Cannabis. So what he put in his report to negate the state's theory was actually this trip the next morning. And you can see right here, he calls it slide 19. And it's this particular cast report where it's showing the 9 o'clock to 9:12 time frame. And he says, of particular interest with this slide is the reported travel of Mr. Koberger's mobile device to Moscow roughly 5 hours after the crimes were committed. Again, there are several missing connections in this slide, and the missing connections that he's referring to is the other tower that is not shown in this slide. In trying to capture what the network activity on the AT&T device would look like when traveling from Pullman to Moscow, there is no better control sample than using Mr. Koberger's own device. In essence, we have this control sample of network activity here. So he's saying you could use this to prove that the prior evening that Koberger could not have made that trip like that. It's common practice in geolocation analysis to identify activity of this nature to serve as a control sample to help provide a better understanding of how cellular network is functioning at any given time. One can review such control samples and then compare them to other times of suspect movements and or similar travel. In this case, we can compare the network activity seen here. Mr. Koberger's device is leaving the residence and traveling to Moscow, to the network activity seen early in the morning around 2:47. When this is done, it becomes even more clear Mr. Koberger's device was not traveling east, nor was it on Highway 270 traveling towards Moscow. The network connections seen between 247 and 254 are completely different than what is seen here. Such a comparison is conveniently missing from Special Agent Balance's work on this case. So literally, even though Cy Ray in the interviews is saying Koberger went on the exact same path the next morning, once again, in his report, he's actually using the trip Koberger made the next morning to prove that that wasn't the trip that Koberger made at 2:45 or 2:54. So I find that just to be very interesting. But and this is the perplexing thing for people out there that think, Koberger was trying to be a mastermind and do this. I mean, how can you possibly critically thinking say that Brian Koberger turned off his phone and then went and committed this crime And he was smart enough to do that to try to avoid detection. But then come 9 o'clock that morning, he's going to keep his phone on and drive the exact same route and do the exact same thing, thinking that that would not create an issue for him. I mean, give me a break. It's two clearly different things. And I would really like to know, I think I already do, but I would really like to know the circumstances around what made Brian Kohberger take this trip back over to Moscow and circle the neighborhood. And then when I see the Mowich truck that almost looks to me exactly like his truck passing where I should see Kohberger's car passing based on his phone activity at 9:21, I can't help but think this is all part of them setting up Brian Kohberger. And the reason that I'm even more confident about that truck being Mowich's, now I don't know if it's Mowich that's driving it. I mean, I know Mowich is cut up. Maybe somebody else is driving his truck at that time. I mean, maybe Mowich is back at the house getting, patched up or something. I don't know, because we've got multiple perpetrators involved in this thing. So for all I know, it's Farley driving that truck. But anyway, that's one part. The next part validates the Kohberger Mowich connection, I think, to a whole nother level, though. Now, again, taking it from there, we don't really know what happened between 9/21/01 when his cell phone jumps back from this tower back over to this one. And the next thing we have in the record is at 10:03, Kohberger's back at his apartment, and he begins sending messages between his either his mother or his father. And you can see down here these are the incoming and outgoing messages that's happening between either his mother or his father. And that happens between 10:03 and 10:04, and then at 10:12 there's a data session. A lot of the pings here are going to be data sessions, and it turns out data sessions it could be Kohberger either using an app, some kind of map messaging service, or it could just be background apps doing things and reporting as a data session. It shows up on the call detail record just like a call or a text message does. But we know he's still in his apartment at 10:31 is when he took the selfie with the thumbs up. Then we know that at 10:49 he's at the ATM. Now we know the ATM is actually the one in Pullman, south of town down here. I wish I had got that one right in the beginning. It would sure saved me a lot of going down the wrong road. But when Kohberger does finally leave his apartment, for some reason he doesn't connect to these towers or sectors up here. He finally connects to this one down here that faces this way. So he comes down at 10:45, and then he goes over and he's obviously at the ATM getting a picture taken at 10:49. But what happens next is what's interesting. Next, we've got all of the tower interactions from 10:45 to 11:23, but we know that at 10:49 he's at the bank ATM. So we can literally map exactly where Kohberger went after leaving the bank because of the times that his phone pings to the different towers and where he was going to. And the way that we can map it perfectly is because we know that he heads east to this tower that's in Blaine at 10:56:48. So he's at 10:49 here to get to this tower at 10:56:48. There's really only one path he can take that is consistent with the path that must be taken to hit the other towers down here at the proper times. And the way we do that is by mapping it out with Google Maps on the drive times. And it looks like this: 10:49, he hits this tower in Blaine that provides coverage to this area at 10:56. Then he's going to hit the tower in La Pie down here at 11:19 that provides coverage to this area. And then he'll hit this tower in Lewiston that provides coverage to this area. And I know that this is the route that he went because it's the only way that the travel time can match up with the times that are hit on those towers. And here's what I mean. Okay, so when we map this out, going a different way, I've tried it every different way and nothing works. The only way that works is this way right here. So he left the ATM at 10:49, heading towards Blaine, and right here at 10:56 is when he's pinging off of this tower right here. So that's the 10:56 ping off of this Blaine tower. So he's right here when that happens. Then he continues down, and at 11:19, he's pinging off this La Poire tower. And he is right here when that happens. And I'm about 99% confident in this because when you match up the driving time of what's possible to the tower where it's hitting, this is, this is just what he did. But he comes down and he hits this tower and he never stops. So, for Ray to say that the next morning he goes over here and then tries, he can't come down here and do something. Or if he did, they don't have it on any mapping showing that he did it. And then he comes this way, but there is not, a minute to spare for Koberger to stop and do anything. He has to drive nonstop to be able to make these marks to hit on these towers. So he's not stopping and picking up knives and clothes. It's impossible. But at 11:22, he pings on this tower right here in Lewiston that covers this area. And then exactly at 11:26, he's pinging off this tower right here that covers this area of Lewiston and Clarkston. Then if you take it and you draw it out exactly to where this tower in coverage is at 11:46, and you take the drive time, it literally puts Koberger right here at 11:46. Literally. And then when you map out the drive time of the next time that he's caught on a tower, he's actually right here in this spot that he hits at 11:46 for 29 minutes before he leaves again and goes what would take him 8 minutes to get to right here where he hits on the next tower, and then another 5 or 6 minutes to where he's over here seen at Costco. You can literally do it down to the tenth with the time and the drive time. But he's right here for 29 minutes. He's somewhere for 29 minutes right here. Now, when you put this on a map and you go down here to this spot right here that works out perfectly to a T, where he's 29 minutes, that's actually where Mowich and Marlena Black was living at the time. So, he's literally driven to an area that just happens to be where Mowich is living at the time, and he stays there for almost 30 minutes. And that's why I say when I look at what I believe I'm seeing with that truck at 921 circling the King Road neighborhood with Koberger's phone in it, I'm very, very certain that that's probably the case because of what I'm looking at right here. So he's here for 29 minutes. He got there at 11:46:55. After 29 minutes, he's going to hit on this tower right here at 12:24. That's the next tower that he hits on, which is this tower right here that provides coverage to this area. And it's an 8-minute drive from here to here. And it lines up perfect because, like I said, there's another 6 minutes from here to Costco, and we know on video that he's arriving at Costco at 12:30 right here. So you can literally take and back off drive time to tower hits, and you can see exactly where he's at. And once he gets to Costco right here at 12:30, I mean, he's on video in this area going from Costco to Kate's Cup of Joe and the US Chef store, then to Albertsons. And he does all that between 12:30. He hits on the tower at 12:36, but we know he's in the parking lot going into Costco at 12:30. But he does all that, and he's last seen leaving Albertsons about 1:04 when his phone last pings to this tower. So he just, one time he bounces in between towers as he's going from store to store to store, but it's all in this same area right here where he's bouncing off these two towers. So we know he's in that area because he's accounted for on video the entire time till 1:04. So what happened after 1:04 when he left Albertsons, I have no idea because they don't have any information on that. But we do know that when he arrives here at 12:30, I made that map a little bit bigger. But he arrives at Costco right here at 12:30, goes in Costco on video, can't get in, comes back out, get in his car. He drives around down here to the US Chef store right here with Kate's Cup of Joe, sits there for a little bit, and then pulls out, comes up and goes into Albertsons shops, leaves Albertsons at 1:04. We don't know where he went after that, but we do know that they have some kind of information from 2:19 to 4:03. But Slavinsky put in his report that page number 123 that accounts for this time period was deleted from the final report. So for some reason, they didn't want anybody to know where Koberger was from 2:19 to 4:03. And they just pick it back up with him up in Johnson, Washington at 5 o'clock. So I just, like I said in the video yesterday, Koberger being in this area, there seems to be a lot of missing time from here. And this just happens to be, I mean, literally a block from where Thompson and Zagalo both live. Could I say that he went to one or both of their houses? No. Can I contemplate that him being right here and there's a lot of missing time and them being right there based on now that I know that he just left Mawich's place? I mean, I think it's quite possible. This is the final key to this, though, and this is how I know law enforcement knows this stuff. Because this map right here that shows Koberger's path of travel, these little arrows here are showing Koberger that morning as they're talking about his trip coming down here and going to Albertsons and Costco and everything else. And you can see the arrows of what happens. See how they continue to go down to here? Then they come back up and go over to here. So my interpretation of the tower pings along with drive time that put Koberger right here, and then there was a 29-minute stop, is spot on with their depiction here in the probable cause affidavit. They know he did it. But I think the craziness of this is this ping right here. See this pin? This is not organic on this map. This is a pin. This is actually a pin that they put on this map. Now, you don't have to have followed me too long to know that this is where Mawich's parents live right here. Right here is where Mawich's girlfriend lives. And when you have this map doing this from Mawich's parents' house with a pin on it to his girlfriend's house, where we now know there's a 29-minute stop, I don't think we can question too much around, did Koberger actually have a relationship with Mawich? I think it's pretty much set now. And thinking about what I'm looking at up there around the neighborhood, what I believe is Mawich's truck with Koberger's phone, and then just a couple hours later, we got Koberger, I mean, literally within feet of his girlfriend's place, passing his parents' place, law enforcement logging it on a map. I don't know what else I could say to help people understand why I feel this way.